We're just a few states away from Donald J. Trump securing the Republican nomination for president for the third time, but he has just posted on Truth Social that he has made his selection for vice president, and it is J.D. Vance, the 39-year-old senator from Ohio.
You think, well, is this person, how did he get the job? Did he get it because he was really the best qualified to be president, or did he get it because he sucked up effectively to the nominee? People will have questions about that.
People have questions. We're going to try to provide answers on why exactly Donald Trump ended up going with JD Vance or JP Mandel. You've heard different names along the way, but he did. The choice is now official. It's out there, as all big news is. You read it first on Truth Social. He posted a couple comments, Donald Trump did. After lengthy deliberation and thought, and considering the tremendous talents of many others, I've decided that the person best suited to assume the position of vice president of the United States is Senator J.D. Vance of the great state of Ohio. JD has had a very successful business career in technology and finance, and now during the campaign will be strongly focused on the people he fought so brilliantly for, the American workers and farmers in Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, Ohio, Minnesota, and far beyond. As vice president, JD will continue to fight for our Constitution, stand with our troops, and will do everything he can to help make America great again. Congratulations to Senator JD Vance, his wife Usha, who also graduated from Yale Law School, and their 3 beautiful children, MAGA 2024. And so the pick was made. I think mere moments before it was made official, I saw that Drudge exclusively leaked the news that Ben Carson had been picked. So that didn't look good a couple of minutes later, but it's done. It's Marco Rubio's done, Burgum's done, no last minute Carson.
Yeah, so let's dive into why he picked JD Vance and what it means. So number one, a lot of other people had their hands in this pie, if you will, right? And they had very credible reports that Rupert Murdoch wanted Doug Burgum and made a huge case for Doug Burgum. That's probably why Doug Burgum didn't make it. I don't know why Murdoch thought that Trump would listen to him when Trump is attacking Fox News 24/7, doesn't really like Murdoch. Murdoch doesn't really like Trump. So that probably doomed Burgum more than it helped him. Marco Rubio was a boy that Trump was never going to pick. It was just a total nonsense consideration, mainly probably to appease donors who like the boy Marco Rubio because the boy will do whatever he's told. So now these guys obviously got eliminated. We already know that. But the relevant part is, which wing of the party did he go with? Did he go with the populist wing or the corporate donor wing? And to be honest, he went with the populist wing. And so now, mind you, all of the populists on the right so far that I've seen, including certainly Donald Trump and JD Vance, are fake populists. At the end of the day, JD Vance works for Peter Thiel, who is the guy who backed him. He's a Silicon Valley funder, extreme right winger. And JD Vance has changed almost all of his positions. And he's mainly now known as a sycophant, which is the second reason that Donald Trump picked him. And John, my theory is, and I'm gonna get back to the populism in a second, but my theory is that Donald Trump didn't pick JD Vance despite his earlier criticism of Donald Trump.
What you might say.
Yeah, it's because
he prefers it.
Yeah, because he took a guy who criticized him that much and made him bend a knee.
He broke him.
He broke him and made him his servant. And so Trump loves that. And once they're broken in, they never defy Trump. So he wanted to make sure, I got a good ass kisser here who's gonna do exactly as he's told, no matter what. And so that's why him calling Trump America's Hitler earlier, now becoming his vice president and saying, I'll do anything for you, is kind of proof in and of itself to Donald Trump that this guy has no soul, no principles, and is exactly the kind of sellout that I'm looking for.
Yeah.
Thanks for watching. Our audience has helped build TYT into the media giant it is today. Together, we can accomplish anything. Support our work and join us at tyt.com/team.
I think it's entirely possible that is what Trump is thinking. I just wonder if in practice he will be as docile as Trump wants, because he doesn't have a soul, but not because he's a convert to MAGA. He doesn't have a soul because he will pursue whatever is in his own power and financial interest at any given moment. So being the never Trumper was beneficial to him at that point. He wanted to get on MSNBC to hype his book and stuff. then that wasn't the best route to more money and more influence and more power. And instead going the MAGA route was. And he, like many of those who'd been never Trump, like Ben Shapiro and all that, bent the knee. But it's still, in both cases, it was for their own good. And so I don't know that a scenario could develop in which, as VP, it would be to his benefit to deny Trump in some way, but he is a super ambitious guy. There are some people that are perfectly happy to be VP and that's the end of their aspirations. I think he 100% sees himself as president. And so I just imagine, like, if I was Trump, I would be like chewing my food super carefully for the next 4 years because that guy's waiting. He's not gonna do the Heimlich. He wants to step into that position.
Yeah.
And so I get the psychology of why I would choose him. I think we should also have a talk about whether it's a good pick because I think that there were far better choices available.
Yeah, we'll get to that in a sec too. So along those lines, there's two more reasons. One other reason is his weakness that you just outlined in how Trump would perceive his weakness, that he might not be perfectly loyal because he's super ambitious, leads to his third upside though, from Trump's point of view, which is he's not shy. He's an attack dog. So, and I think that the last thing he said kind of proved himself to Trump. I don't know if it wound up being like a tiebreaker or relevant in this consideration, or if the decision had already been made. Yeah. But after the shooting, JD Vance blamed it on Joe Biden. And he did it in a very, very brazen way. See, Doug Burgum wouldn't have done that because he's more of a regular politician, and he didn't do that, right? Ben Carson wouldn't have done it because he's still asleep. And so if Trump just wanted docile, Ben Carson would have been your pick.
Yeah,
right. I mean, it doesn't get any more docile than Ben Carson, right? So he did want a little bit of an attack dog, and that's a third reason why he picks Vance.
I think you're 100% right. I just question whether that is actually to his benefit in the campaign going forward, with how the campaign has developed. I agree. I think it is ironic that, like, as the right, until they found out more about the identity of the shooter, and was like, it's the pitching him as a dictator, as Hitler directly caused this. And now I'm going to choose a guy who has done that.
Yeah,
he literally himself has done that. But so the reason that I question why I would have gone with like a Ben Carson is Trump seems to have come out of the debate. He has seen the polling. He has listened to his advisors, which have told him, you are your own worst enemy. And the only thing that can lose you this election, if it's still Biden, is you reminding everyone that you're out of your mind and that you're a radical. So don't do that. When coming out of the debate, Biden looks bad, don't hit him. You look presidential, just keep it together. Coming out of the assassination attempt, as we'll get to, his messages have been very calm, presidential. He's not undercutting himself by going crazy. And Ben Carson isn't gonna draw you, he's not gonna help them do ads. There's not gonna be any scandal. But with JD Vance, both on policy and on the fact that he is an attack dog, you open up the door to potentially reminding people of Project 2025 and how, like he's as you said, he's a Teal guy. Teal's the guy who said that democracy and freedom are incompatible. Like he's a reminder of the extremism that Trump had done a good job of tamping down and could have ridden to victory on.
But that leads to two more points in favor of Vance. Okay, so that way Trump can pretend to be above the fray and not seem as radical as he normally does. And then let JD Vance be the pit bull who is not above the fray and just constantly is punching below the belt.
Well, why do you need the pit bull when you're up in every swing state?
No, I agree with that. I mean, I don't agree with the JD Vance pick. I don't like any of these guys, of course. But as a matter of strategy, I would go on the offense and I would stay there.
I mean, I just think the Biden strategy seems to be, I'm not really gonna do anything to dramatically change this election, but don't worry about it. And this is what I hear from people on Twitter. Don't worry about it. People hate Trump, they're just gonna vote against Trump. Well, like, I think a JD Vance probably helps that strategy more than a Ben Carson. I think Ben Carson helps to make him seem less threatening, a little bit more comfortable.
Yeah.
Instead, he brought the attack dog, the radical, the guy who was already provided quotes for ads about him being, America's dictator and a con man.
No, I think it's a good pick. And again, just strategically and politically, not policy wise, I don't agree with any of them. But John, they're doing the Clinton Gore strategy, which is double down on what you got. And that led to wins. That led to two different wins, okay? And at the time, people were like, why do you pick Gore? Gore and Clinton are so similar, both from the South, both white, both around the same age. I mean, they're nearly identical. Because if you got a winning hand, play it. And so their winning hand, they believe, is populism. So they're doubling down on populism. Now we know it's fake, but at least they're pretending, right?
Okay.
And so, and I think that that is a smart strategy. I think that yeah, I get it. An establishment candidate gives people some degree of comfort, and that's why he went with Mike Pence the last time around, both evangelical and establishment. But he was already president. So the idea that, oh my God, if you don't have a steadying hand there, he's going to go out of control. Actually, that was true, not because of Mike Pence, but because the administrative state basically stopped Trump at a couple of times when he would have done far more radical things. And this time there'll be no brakes in the car. And you're concerned, rightfully so, that JD Vance takes out whatever brakes were there left in the car.
Yeah, I think if he's a suck up who will probably encourage him in his worst impulses. Whereas I think like a Tim Scott probably would have done the opposite thing and might have helped him. Like JD Vance, I don't think necessarily like expands the map for him in any way. But
except
like
he needs to win the Midwest. Now Ohio's
down in Ohio right
no,
now?
no. Ohio's a lock for Republicans, right?
Yeah.
But he's from the Midwest, and they need Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania more than they need any other states.
Yeah.
So that's an idea. And then the last part is, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I would just say on policy, and look, it's entirely possible that Ben Carson, to the extent that he has taken any positions, also would be bad on this. But on the core issues that, better or worse, Biden wants to run on, I think he wants JD Vance on the ticket. In terms of democracy, again, he's affiliated with guys who are explicitly anti-democratic. He's already said that he thinks that Trump would be America's Hitler. It plays into that strategy. On abortion being a topic, JD Vance is a total radical on abortion. He doesn't believe in exceptions for rape. He talks about rape being inconvenient to the topic of talking about abortion. He's against IVF. Like he's extreme among the Republicans on the big issue of the race.
Yeah.
And Trump is too, but Trump has been trying to soften. And he just doubled down by bringing on someone who's even more extreme than he is.
Yeah, I'm going to add, I think this is, I'm going to be up to 6 reasons why JD Vance was a logical pick from the perspective of Trump, not from our perspective. So come to think of it, he's wild and radical and populist in a way that is appealing to his MAGA base. Not that he needed any further appeal there, but he's happy to have it, like I said, go with the strategy of full populism, which he thinks is the winning hand. And there's logic in that. But JD Vance also ironically brings in different donors, not the donors that normally give to Republicans in the elections decades past, the bankers, the corporate executives, et cetera, and the Fox News and the Murdochs and all those guys. They're a little bit different category, but JD Vance brings in the radicals from Silicon Valley. And so it might bring in more Peter Thiel money. It might bring David Sachs money. And David Sachs is speaking at the convention here. He's one of the guys that does the All In podcast. It's kind of the epicenter of Silicon Valley bros and that culture. And so that's gone from being in the middle to being, very right wing and very libertarian, kind of JD Vance, burn down everything. And then there'll be no government to bother us as we rob you blind, totally and utterly blind, right? So he's like a worst case scenario. Yeah, I know, right? It's hilarious. No, and that's why it's kind of a worst case scenario for people who are concerned about them burning down the government. But I get their logic in doing that because now you're going to get some new donor money from Silicon Valley. Because as I said, finally, someone presumably has to take over for Trump. Presumably at the end. I mean, they're both there. He's also very, very old, and it might be in the middle, but you hope that doesn't happen, and it happens at the end. And Donald Trump Jr. and many others in the MAGA movement think that JD Vance is the guy to take over for Trump, and so that played a big part in their considerations. Whereas if you put Ben Carson or Tim Scott, they clearly would not have taken over, and then there would have been a melee, and no one strengthened as the heir apparent.
If I was Don Jr., I would set that up so that they wouldn't take the place that I might want to take in 4 years.
Yeah, but maybe Don realizes his limitations as he should.
That's entirely possible. I also think I understand why he excites the MAGA base. He's also not Trump. I don't think that he has 1/20th the charisma of Trump. I don't think that he's going to be able to get away with stuff in the same way. I mean, he's brazen. I'll give him that, but there hasn't really been a Republican who's been able to replicate the Trump thing, and I don't think that JD Vance is the one who's going to have that sort of lock. It's possible. I could be wrong.
But he's going to throw one roundhouse after another after another.
Like that's what did.
Yeah, and that's what Trump wants. Okay. So I get the logic of it.
You wanted your prediction video ready to go. Do you want to use that?
Oh yeah, I think that I was wrong. So let's watch. Donald Trump, and this is a big part of the story, has been going around trying to please giant donors. So the VP list is a lot of, oh, I could pick Marco Rubio, and you guys know Marco Rubio will do anything for donors. The neocons and the establishment figures on the list are interesting, and I think the ones most likely to be picked. JD Vance is kind of a wild card. He'll do anything a donor tells him to do, but he's got theoretically populist streak. I mean, they're all fake populists anyway. So to me, I think he's definitely gonna go with someone at least authorized by the donors. Yeah, I'll rate myself at least half wrong there, because the bigger donors, I don't think we're in the JD Vance category, but the Silicon Valley donors are massively in the JD Vance category. So, yeah, I'd you know what? I say 60% wrong, 40%.
Oh my God, that's the most wrong you've ever valued yourself. I would like to close the segment by giving credit to Donald Trump. A lot of people had predicted that he would not be able to get past the beard. And he did. He chose a guy with a beard. A guy who desperately needs the beard. Don't ever shave it. But he did get past it, so he's not as shallow as some people present him.
Wow, okay. Yeah. Are we not merciful?
Credit at the RNC.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.